How do you decide what to work on every day? Whether you're a junior engineer, an intern, or the CEO of a civil engineering company like our guest today, thinking about what to work on day by day, hour by hour is directly related to your success as a professional and as a leader. And today, in this week's Engineering Management Lessons video, I have with me Brian Coltharp. Brian is a licensed professional engineer. He's also the president and CEO of Fries and Nichols, a large civil engineering company. So, Brian, thank you for spending a few minutes with us here. As the CEO of a good-sized company, you have about 1 million things on your plate. You need to make important decisions every day, every week on where to focus your energy and your efforts. I'm curious if you'd share with our audience how you make those decisions.
You bet. It's a lot about setting priorities. I think of it some ways in terms of like our strategic plan that we have here at the company. I always say that, and I tell our staff about our strategic plan is that there's just so many things going on out there in the world today. We could be doing a lot of different things as a company, but our strategic plan really puts focus on the things that we feel like are most important for us to focus on at the company level. And so when you ask me about my personal schedule, I think of that because there are 1 million different things out there that we could be doing, right? So I think about it in terms of priorities, in terms of what are the most important things, and then schedule appropriately based on that. But the other thing I would say too, I always tell people this because I get asked a lot also, what's the difference between what you're doing now versus what you back doing engineering work. And I always say that to me, no matter what job you have, whether it's CEO or you're just starting out at your company, you have a job description, right? You have a list of everything that you need to accomplish based on that. And you have goals and you have priorities tied to that. And you've got to get all those different things done. But I would always argue that we as humans, we always end up spending the most time doing the things we like doing the best.
That's
right. And so you just got to make sure you get all those other things done, right? So it's about setting priorities and getting things done. Delegating certainly is a big part of what we all have to do. But then I think from a personal standpoint, and I do believe that's true, I think that helps with your longevity too, is doing the things that we all like doing as well, and making sure we have time carved out for those things also.
Yeah, that's great. And I like what Brian said there, kind of to kick that off is, the company, let's say, for example, has a strategic plan. So as the CEO, you're obviously really interested in that and making sure that those strategic goals are achieved. So maybe kind of you're starting there, right? And then like you're drilling yourself down. And I think that could go for anybody. If you're a civil engineer right now and you're working in the structural engineering department, your department probably has some goals, right? And sure, you have your project tasks, but as a leader, maybe you can help your department, right, achieve some of those like department goals, whether they're quarterly goals or annual goals or something like that. I think that a leader can take those bigger picture goals and kind of bring them down to the ground and figure out like, what should we work on today? Who needs to be working on this? And so I like, how Brian started this by thinking about strategic goals, but then also being able to kind of more tactical, if you will, right? Figure out like, how do we put those into action? And sometimes it's not you doing them. Like Brian said, you got to delegate, which I know we as engineers don't like to do because we like to get the calculators out sometimes. And like Brian was saying, do what we like to do. But I will say that I think from talking with a lot of leaders like Brian, I think the ability to figure out how to take a larger goal, a bigger vision for the company, and then drilling it down into what we actually have to be doing today or this week or this month to make that happen is really, really important. Because if you can't do that, you get off track, right? And then you say, well, we had 10 strategic goals this year. It's already July. Like, we haven't really made a lot of traction on those. So I think there's different ways to think about it. There's your day-to-day stuff, but then there's your bigger picture stuff. And I feel like as leaders, we need to kind of somehow connect the two. And I think hearing a little bit, Brian, about how you approach it is really helpful for us. So,
Absolutely. And I think too, typical CEO, I work for our board of directors. And so I work with our board every year to set my goals for the year. And so I have a whole list of different goals. But one thing we started doing a few years ago is, in addition to my list of goals, we come up with what my priorities are for the year as well. So that really, to your point, really pulls out what I think and what our board of directors feels is the most important things, the priorities for me to be focused on throughout the year. So that really helps, answer your question as well about what I do and how I plan on a day-to-day basis. Certainly, those are the most important things because I've worked with our board and that's what we've come up with. So certainly I make sure I get those things addressed.
That's great. So again, if you're a leader at any level of your organization, making sure that you have some kind of goals or priorities. In Brian's case, he has the strategic goals to think about, has some priorities from the board to think about. Whatever level you're at in your organization, hopefully you have something that is there to kind of keep you focused and on the goals that matter for you. And once again, Brian Coltharp, licensed professional engineer, president and CEO of Freese & Nichols, thanks so much for some time today. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Some great tips there from Brian on how to approach your days and weeks, and I hope that you can implement them in your career. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel here. We do put out videos like this on a weekly basis to help engineering professionals become better managers and leaders. I'll see you next week.